File 9. The Death of Void. Void wasn't always a zombie, like all of us. He lived a somewhat happy life before it all crumbled beneath our eyes. All zombies cannot age, as known. So what you will see within this text will surprise you. Our story follows our young Harrison Richardson, a young American boy who lived peacefully in Brooklyn. Harrison had two loving parents, Blair and Lincoln. They lived in the middle of nowhere. It was quite a lonely space for their playful boy. Harrison built up for it, however. He would make his own imaginary friends and would play with the toys his parents got him. Sometimes, Harrison had to be home alone. Their parents wouldn't be able to get a babysitter, but they trusted their son more than the entire world. They would leave the house to do their proclaimed job, while Harrison had to learn to look after himself. But one day, while Harrison and his family was home, they were ambushed. The FBI suddenly broke in and started to take Harrison's parents away. Everyone was yelling, but the child was crying his eyes out. He was completely confused for why his parents were suddenly being taken away. Little did he know, Blair and Lincoln were well-known partners in crime. Literally. As they were being taken away, Harrison was next to go. The commander, the leader of the government, and protector of humanity, decided to suggest that Harrison would be brought to a new family where he can properly be looked after with education, discipline, and much more freedom. Harrison hated that idea. He wanted his own parents back. But no matter how much he cried and tried to negotiate, Commander kept his word. This made Harrison run away and flee into the middle of nowhere. Harrison wasn't prepared to be out there on his own. He could not find food to enjoy, any water, or even find any friends. He was by himself with no one around. He felt lonely, scared, and dripping with sweat. Later, our poor Harrison took shelter in the sewage. He would find this by walking into a giant pipe leading into the big city. Harrison was still hungry, but he still couldn't find anything to eat, until eventually, after weeks of not eating or drinking, our poor Harrison died in the sewage pipes. But the story does not end right here, for this has quite a happy ending. Harrison later found himself in a dark cavern, completely different from Brooklyn. The air was thick, the ground was rough, the area was eerie. The cave felt so quiet that even Harrison could hear himself breathing. Harrison would look down and find his own body was completely different. It was black, rotten flesh with pinkish veins coursing through his body. He was terrified of himself backing into a nearby wall he could not see. Harrison wasn't alone. For after minutes of being transported into this realm for Void knows how long, a body was slowly formed in the color of pink. The stranger opened his eyes and looked around the area, also confused like young Harrison. He asked where he was. Harrison would reply he did not know either. Harrison was terrified. He cried to himself in the corner. The stranger would comfort him, trying to ease him in his presence. The stranger believed they were in the rumored zombie realm, a place that definitely no one goes to when they die. But for Harrison and the stranger, they were the lucky enough to be transported to this quiet area. The stranger would later introduce himself to be called Igor Naka, a Russian scientist who worked specially on testing concoctions made by his friends and co-workers. At least that was what he believed. They both got to know each other to pass time in this empty space. But Harrison got bored and wanted to understand the zombie realm. At just the right time, Harrison sneezed and summoned a dark cloud of evil energy. Edgar theorized Harrison is the first person to enter the zombie realm. Therefore, he looks far different from himself. Harrison was dark, veiny, insecure, and somewhat intimidating for a child. Iger prompted Harrison to explore more of his powers. Harrison used his newly discovered powers to grow larger. Bodies grew on his body, and he gave himself a power gem on his chest. His eyes turned an intimidating red. He adorned himself with a black crown. He gave himself spikes on his back. Igor was astonished by seeing this. Harrison would then made Igor bigger, but not as big as him. Igor was pinker. He was adorned with purple armor and a purple crown. Igor was classed as Lord Boss 4, and Harrison would then name himself Void. Slowly, they introduced people into the army, a rebellion against the human race. Quickly, the army grew far bigger than the government, and much more was discovered. The world would then fear the name Void.
So, that's how Void came to be?
It was how we came to be. It wasn't just Void who helped this army grow, you know.
Well, at least I got to learn how my beautiful leader turned into, well, you know.
Indeed. But now you know why he does what he does. Why he strives what he wants to achieve. And why he hates the human race so much.
Oh, speaking of Lord Boss 4, when are we going to hear your origin story, by the way?
Never. You will never hear about my past. You will never hear anything from what I went through.
You're kidding, right? It can't be that bad.
I mean it, Lord Boss 3. You will hear my story over my dead body by my last breath alone.
Okay. Can we just get some McDonald's already? Lord Boss 2 ordered me some chicken selects and some fries, and I really want to get my hands on them.
Very well. That is one way to change the conversation, even if it's so stupid.